hatred, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn as Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David told Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart reap up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When the cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people, you go meet it up. Pass me the Congo, Jama, let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. No weapon that form against us shall not prevail. No man that rise against us, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, no I will conquer. Yes, I will conquer, conquer them. Shut up, no man, let's conquer. No I will conquer. Shut up, rise up and conquer, conquer them. Shut up. Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. Everything, Father. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turned enemies, and they pray for right to fail. I remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the word of grace. Send down the warriors with the hello. They carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try to trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could there be that we the myself? Weapon that form against us shall not prevail. No man that rise and says that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, no I will conquer. Yes I will conquer, conquer them. Shut up, no man, let's conquer. No I will conquer. Shut up, rise up and conquer, conquer them. Shut up.
Good morning, good morning, good morning to all of our listening audience. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A special good morning to all of you listening or joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to all of you joining us on the live video. All right, those of you on Facebook and on YouTube, good morning to you. Of course, it is Friday. I know we've been out for, what has it been? I've been out for 3 days? Trying to battle with the voice. It's still not 100% altogether, but it's getting there. All right, but of course, we continue the talks, we continue the conversation, keeping you informed, ensuring that you're all right, that you have the information and that you can share information with us as well, all right, because that's all we want to do. And of course, right next to me, I have none other than Mr. Bola. Mr. Bola, good morning.
Good morning to you, Mr. Duncan, and a very special good morning to our listeners out there, whether you're in Brooklyn, New York, where you can hear us live on We Noise Radio, or you're in Hillsborough, Carriacou. I got my friends out there in Carriacou. I want to say good morning to them. Oh, you're on mainland Grenada. Or you're listening and viewing through the World Wide Web. I just say whatever platform you're viewing us from. I say a very special good morning to you, and I want to wish you a very pleasant day as we move along and try to impart information. As we say on this program, we bring you facts and not fiction. We do not create fear, but we want to give information. So it's nice to be with you once again.
All right. Now, before we get into the meat of the conversation, I always like to start off with providing them with the details of all updates, as it is, of the coronavirus. So currently, there are 100,627 cases. Of course, of that we have 55,991 recoveries, and we have 3,411 deaths. Okay? The number of active cases as it stands is 41,225. And that is really the number to look at. Of course, we want to know how many cases we've had altogether because that's important. But the number to really look at is the amount of active cases, which means that cases that are still, people that are still exhibiting symptoms of, you know. So we have 41,225 individuals currently exhibiting symptoms of the coronavirus. In addition to that, there are 95 countries and territories around the world that are being affected by the coronavirus. That's a big number.
Yeah, well, a big jump. I mean, just last week we were looking at just about 50. So you almost have it doubled. But interestingly, as you've said, the number of persons who have contracted now has risen past 100,000, but only 41,000 active at the moment. So don't be alarmed, don't get scared about 100,000. It is not 100,000 people presently having the virus.
Yeah.
For the numbers based on the tracking that has contracted the virus from since it started in the latter months of 2019, it's now 100,000 plus. But active as we speak today is only 41,000 plus, and 55,000 people recovering, meaning that more than 50% of those so far of the total number who have contracted the virus have survived, have been healed, and are now back to their good health. So it's a story there for all of us to understand that, of course, our bodies are quite capable of fighting that virus, and there can be recovery.
Absolutely. Now, I know that we have a lot of concern as it relates to the coronavirus in the Caribbean. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of opinions being shared, a lot of emotion as it relates to the virus. And I just want to say that it's very important, and I'll continue to reiterate this. It is important for us to stick to the facts. Sabola, stick to the facts. And something I've been experiencing over the past few days, that there are a lot of people out there. They don't believe what they're hearing from the health officials as fact. They prefer to believe the propaganda because it sounds more intriguing. It fits more into their narrative, They want to believe with a firm hand that Grenada isn't prepared at all for the onset of this virus. And that is disturbing as well as disappointing. Because if you don't believe your health officials, who are the people with the information, who are the people who are dealing with this issue firsthand, then who really are you going to believe?
Sad, but what you're saying is so true. But then the question one needs to ask themselves also, Duncan, in the context of preparation, how prepared can you be? Now, of course, the health officials, the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Health, the government, and all those involved have a certain amount of work to do. They have a certain level of preparation that they can and should do. But there's also us as individuals, as leaders of our families, as leaders in our workplaces, that also have to join in, and there's a certain amount of work that we have to do in terms of preparation that the government, the ministry, the doctors, no health professional can do for us. Yeah. So a health professional is not supposed to wash our hands for us every day, but they have given us the information and said, look, as regular as possible. You touch surfaces, you touch. As a matter of fact, they're now saying that, listen, we like to greet each other, and we should continue to greet each other. But as opposed to shaking hands, maybe you give a bounce or a nice little bow, to acknowledge the presence of a friend, a brother, a colleague. And why are they saying that? Is as a preventative method, because if someone may contract or may have the virus, and sometimes even unknowing to that person, because only this morning I was reading that the symptoms that they share, that you would have the headache and the flu-like symptoms, the sneezing and the coughing and so, it attacks different people at varying degrees.
Yeah.
Some people much more severe,
Yeah.
so they may have headaches and pain, back pain and what have you. Others may have it and not even realize it because the symptoms may be so limited to them. That person may sneeze into their hand, cough into their hand, because we know it is factual now that the way in which the virus is being spread is by droplets from an infected individual. So you sneeze and, some of what comes from your mouth gets into your hand, you shake my hand, the virus can transmit from your hand to my hand. No. It is clear from what the science shows that getting into your hand, it cannot contaminate you. But more than likely, as we move around and we do things without washing our hands with soap and water or using the hand sanitizer, we may then touch our nose or rub our eyes or put our hands into our mouth. And these are the places through which the virus is going to enter our body. So that's the precautionary measure. So when people talk about the government is not prepared, the ministry is not prepared, what is the level of preparedness should they have? They have the protective garments for the frontline workers, for the health workers, that most likely will be interacting with any person who contract the virus. They have the quarantine station. They have the protocol in place to not just quarantine, but also to isolate people if need be. They have the thermometers at the ports of entries where they can test the temperature of people. They are constantly evaluating the condition of passengers on board vessels as well as aircraft, and will determine whether or not, based on their own analysis of the risk factor that exists on any one vessel, whether they should allow it to land or berth in Grenada or return. I mean, only recently again. There was one ship that was returned. There was a aircraft that was denied landing. Eventually, they asked to land for refueling. Mm-hmm. That was allowed by the airport authority, but no one was allowed to disembark or to come off the vessel. So, of course, the people are doing what they are supposed to do. Doing the screening and the testing temperatures, quarantining who they have to. I understand that there are other people who are presently in quarantine, not just the 4 or 5 students who came from China, but people who have traveled from areas that is considered on the ministry's list to be hot spots. And they came and probably were showing up a temperature. They have been quarantined. Now there's a lot of noise out there. Well, where are the quarantine stations? What do I want to know what the quarantine station is for? Do I have to go there? Do you have to go there? Unless the health officials who are qualified to determine whether or not we are showing symptoms or signs that warrants us to be quarantined, they are the ones that should know. So what is this big noise about we don't know where the quarantine station? What do we have? We have to bring food? We have to bring medication? Or we are going to pay a visit? It's called quarantine because no one is supposed to go there except those who have the authority or the need to.
Yesterday I was having a conversation with my sister who lives in Barbados, and she said to me they have quarantine centers in Barbados. Now, they don't know where all of them is. The Prime Minister, in her speech, when Carriacou met, mentioned a few. She also mentioned that they would be using a particular area of a hospital in Barbados to isolate needs be persons needing hospital care. And she said that she doesn't understand why it's such a big deal for people to know where the not the isolation, the quarantine sites are. What is the difference in you knowing where it is and not knowing where it is? Because you're not going to go there. You don't need to know the direction to, because as they would have explained thoroughly, and I think people don't take time to listen, because when the health officials go on different programs and so on to speak, in their minds, their mind is already turning as to, well, I'm waiting to hear him say the quarantine site is in St. George's and is the health center in St. George's, and that's what they're waiting to hear. So when they don't hear that, they don't care about anything else that he says, because they already have the preconceived notion that they are hiding something. So they don't go there to listen. You know, they have mentioned that there are health stations right around the island, in all of the different parishes at that have been identified in the event that you are at home and you may fit the criteria as an individual that may have the virus. You know, you can call ahead to one of these health stations, right? There would be a separate entrance for you, so you don't mix with the general population in the health center. You know, all of these things have been identified. What is the importance of you knowing where the quarantine site is? Will you need to be quarantined?
But if you need to be quarantined, you don't just go there by yourself.
Exactly.
It is the health professionals that will determine if you need quarantine and will take you to wherever the many quarantine points are. So that's a non-argument. It is just something that they're throwing into the mix to try to scare people. It is just another bit of misinformation, because a lot of those who are throwing out challenges and saying that the ministry is not ready, they cannot tell you why the ministry is not ready. They cannot tell you whether the ministry has 1 mask or 10 masks. They cannot tell you whether the ministry has 1 protective garment or 100 protective garments, right? The ministry says that they do, and they have been using people already on the front line that has been boarding aircraft, that has been interacting with people who have been suspected of having flu-like symptoms and being quarantined. Thank God that none of them emerge to be positive and so, and we really hope that things would stay that way. But
Absolutely.
What is important to re-emphasize time and time again is, are we ready? Meaning the individuals. What is the plan you have for your family?
Yeah.
Are you eating the right food? Are you getting sufficient rest? Do you drink and encourage your friends, your relatives, and your neighbors to consume sufficient water on a daily basis? Are you using your vitamins and minerals, whether they are supplements or you get it through your food, to ensure that your immune system becomes robust enough, strong enough, and capable enough to fight the virus, if at all it should come to Grenada? Are you thinking about your senior people that you are looking after? Your mother, your grandmother, your father, grandfather, and aunt that is over 60, that is over 70, whom the reports have been saying would be the sector of the population that will be most critically hit should the virus come? Because we've seen from the examples in all of the other nations that has contracted the virus so far. Are you making sure that the name is on that list that the ministry has, so that they can be checked periodically, so that they can get the necessary medical attention? Are you doing that? As opposed to being on Facebook and on the radio and castigating and saying things that you do not really know and understand well.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say that I'm an expert, but I listen to those that I believe have the understanding. Our medical professionals, I listen to and read up what the international panel is saying, the WHO and so, and try to inform myself, and at the same time, through that information, try to let the people who are around me and the people who I come into contact with know the do's and don'ts, and how together we can fight this virus. We can prevent it from coming. But if it does come, if it does get here, if it does come into our island, does cross our shores, how we can contain it and prevent it from spreading.
I want to say to the people that are calling, we are going to open the lines in about 15 or so minutes, right? For you to call and contribute to the conversation, because I know this is a big topic for everybody. Everybody wants to contribute. Everybody wants to speak. Mr. Bola, something that I want to address this morning, and it must be addressed. An individual yesterday, was it yesterday? Yesterday, would have made a statement, Mr. Bola. And I want to read the statement. And the reason I'm doing this is not to rehash old wounds. The reason I'm doing this is because there are still people out there. You see, we don't understand. When we post things to social media, when we spread information, and we do not go back and clean up the information that we have put out there, there are still people floating around in Grenada with the impression that you have given them. So I'm going to read to you that piece of information. Nazim, I ain't fine as seeing it, you know. Let me pull it up quickly. It was done by, and I'll say this with no regret, it was with malicious intent. You know, and it's time that we put a stop to this nonsense. We are at a place now where the world is basically gripping their pearls, looking at what is happening, bracing themselves for the onset of this virus. And we do not need this sort of unnecessary drama surrounding the coronavirus. What we need to be doing is spreading the word. There are helpful tips being spread all over. The hotline that you can call, the number, how many people have shared that? How many of you have put on your pages those helpful tips? Because I've been looking at some of your pages, and you know the malicious ones, eh? They are the ones, when you scroll through their timeline, all you see is negativity. Negative, negative, negative. They haven't shared one thing positive, one thing helpful, one thing that would lead a Grenadian to prepare themselves for the onset of this virus. But yet you go to their pages and all you see is a set of lies, a set of propaganda, helping to share the wrong information. You know, and that's where it becomes a little touchy for me. You understand? So this individual yesterday would have made an allegation against the cruise ports, and I'm going to the taxi association. I'm going to read it, and it reads, and I'm quoting here, folks, I had a brief telephone conversation with the president of the that's the clarified one. That's not what I want. I want the original. Nazim, can you find me the original? Because there it is. There we are. Tonight, Wednesday, the 4th of March, 2020.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. And in bold letters there, this is breaking news. There was panic and confusion behind the Bruce Street Mall by the headquarters of the Grenada Taxi Association when a tourist aboard the Thompson celebration reportedly came down with respiratory problems. Allegedly, calls were made to the General Hospital for an ambulance, but none came to their assistance. Then, it was alleged that the wife of the sick man called on the Taxi Association to assist in transporting her husband to the hospital, but reportedly all of them drove off in fear. That was the original post. That was the breaking news. Now, when you post something like this, people begin to share, because I came across it because somebody would have shared it to Mikey Live and a couple other pages. People would share these things. Now, you have people all frantic because one of the symptoms of the coronavirus is respiratory illness. Right? Now, this tourist comes down with respiratory illness, and you are accusing our taxi men and women of leaving an individual tourist in distress and running away. Now, let's take this apart. The implications. You have people now believing that we have had our first case of the coronavirus. You have people believing, not only here but in the diaspora, that our taxi people are irresponsible and that if an issue arises, they cannot depend on them. You have people believing that the government of Grenada is irresponsible for letting cruise ships into the island and that people are not being properly screened because this individual has respiratory illnesses and nobody picked it up. Now, these are the implications. And the reason I say implications is because it is not directly stated in the post, but it is what the post is implying. And this is what I keep telling people, that you may not directly say that the government of Grenada is irresponsible, but by saying that there are no plans in place, you are implying that they are irresponsible. And that is just as bad. You understand? And that is what they fail to realize. So I am now going to play for you the clip from the Taxi Association. Now imagine this. The Taxi Association has to come out now and make statement to refute this because, I mean, this is these people's livelihood. So after this coronavirus is all dead and gone, imagine the backlash, the repercussions of a story like this on the international stage. I'm going to play for you that clip right now.
The Grenada Taxi Association, Cosmas Williams, says there is no truth to the viral post on social media on Wednesday that accused his members of refusing to assist a cruise ship passenger who was seeking medical attention. The post claims the visitor was experiencing respiratory problems and his female companion called for medical service from the general hospital, and when that failed, she sought assistance from taxi operators who refused to help.
I know, but yesterday with nobody asked no taxi driver. I left here about 7 o'clock and nobody asked no taxi driver, had no time to carry no passenger, no way. I learned that one went diving and then they had a problem. And then the ambulance came and made them.
Okay, and that is all.
And that's all I know about. And anybody spreading rumors which is wrong. All these things what they say is a blatant lie. And I find in Grenada we like too much they say, he say, and propaganda. And this is bad for our country.
Williams says that taxi operators care and feel obligated to help visitors in any way possible.
Our duty is to help the passengers at all times. We usually carry them to the hospital, St. Augustine, the General. Anyway they want to go, we carry them. And if they're not well, sometimes last week some got damage on toes and we carry them to the hospital. That's our duty, to assist the passengers at all times. We always help them. That's our duty. Because we're talking about tourists, we're talking about people, and you have to help people. Today for we, tomorrow for them.
The president believes that such false accusations should not be posted on social media, as it could be detrimental to the tourism industry in Grenada. For GBN News, I am Rena Pear.
Well, there you have it.
Well, I mean, it goes without saying sometimes, but, I'm tempted always, well, not always, but I have said it before and I'm tempted to say it again. One gets the impression sometimes when you read some of those posts that are fictitious, they are libelous, they are meant to create, problem, to lift people's emotion. I mean, there you have the president of the Taxi Association coming and quite clearly refuting and denying that anything of such happened. I later learned that there was, in fact, a tourist that had some respiratory problem, but that is someone who went diving.
Yeah.
And totally not a scenario like what was created in the post. And that was dealt with. The person got to hospital, because I heard Dr. Martin himself explaining, saying that he had the information. The person went to hospital. There's nothing close to coronavirus, had no flu-like symptoms. They went diving and for whatever other reason had some respiratory problem, right? And that was clear. But sometimes you read and you listen, and you tend to make the assumption in your mind that there are some people that are really hoping and praying that we may have a case here in Grenada. It's like they want it because to them it is their route to getting power. It is their route and their lifeline to political survival.
Yeah.
Because I does not understand where the rest of the world, some 90 odd countries now, have confirmed cases. In China and Wuhan, where the epicenter is, they are seeing now over the last week or so that the numbers of people contracting the disease per day, the sickness, I keep saying disease, but it's a virus, sorry, per day is reducing.
Absolutely.
The numbers that are getting relief, that are recovering, is increasing. Yes? So, in other words, the World Health Organization is saying, while it is still early days, it appears that they are getting a better handle. Remember, they call it the coronavirus, not just coronavirus, you know, but it's novel, which means it's new.
It's new.
It's something that they have never seen before. It is a virus that they did not understand how it behaves, what it will do, how it was transmitted. But over time, more and more information is coming forward. They are picking up. So we are better able now to deal with it if it comes to us. We have a better understanding. And of course, we are happy that at least while there is still not a vaccine that has been developed, but just general care and proper control, a more sanitized lifestyle, in improving on what you was doing hygienically, can and will aid in its treatment. Why can't our people inquire a bit more and spread those news? Just as the person put up the post and falsifying information that the taxi drivers was afraid and drove away and ran away because, you know, creating scare in the minds of people. I mean, the other day I learned that a boat, I'm not absolutely certain if it was a tourist ship, which I have to verify, but was sent back. So people noticed that it was coming.
That was yesterday.
Yes. And that alone created a scare.
Yeah.
Yeah? Why was the vessel sent back? Now, of course, we have been saying time and time again that there are protocols which our people here in Grenada will follow. And if from an assessment, the health officials, the tourism officials gets the feeling or come to the conclusion that based on the present condition on that vessel of the passengers or the crew, it is too high risk for us. And there we can go back to the statement that was made when Minister Modeste, the minister, Honorable Minister for Tourism and Civil Aviation, was interviewed by a reporter from NTV, when she said, it is not necessary at this time to put a total ban on tourism. And so many people went on and castigated her. Oh, all we're thinking about is money. And I hear this talk all the time, that all the government is concerned about is money. But if the government doesn't have money, these are the same people that complain about the conditions of the road. Oh, that the hospital need medication.
And increased salary.
That we need an increase in salary. That schools need repairs. That you know, every single thing is the government. And I have to keep mentioning that it is not the noise that determines your leadership skills and qualities. It's your ability to stay calm and assess every situation, even when there is panic among your people. Because remember, you are the leaders. And so everybody feel that they have the right to determine what the leaders of this nation must do. When the Prime Minister must make an address, and even when he does it, what should he say in the address? They want to determine that. But are you the leader? You're not. So listen, you either agree or disagree, but you cannot say what he should and shouldn't say, because he is the leader and he knows what is best and at what time he must say what. So we continue to appeal to people be careful what you post. You could damage the whole tourism industry.
Of course.
Someone in New York, someone in Germany, someone in Australia who probably was thinking about taking a trip to Grenada sometime. It doesn't have to be now. It doesn't even have to be in 2020. Because a lot of these people plan their vacations years before. They prepare for it. It may be a big group, some part of the world deciding in 2021 cruise season they're going to visit Grenada because they hear about this little piece of paradise. But reading that post and saying that taxi drivers refused to help someone who was having a respiratory problem, that they drove off, they drove away, they hid from them. What message are we really sending to the international world? Yeah? And you, just before you come in, Duncan, you never know. The person who put the post, they may not be directly involved in the tourism trade.
Well, they're not. We know that
as
for
a
sure.
vendor or what have you. But they may have relatives. Some of the people they depend on to give them contribution to continue to run them out and say all kind of wrong things may well be getting that few dollars from the tourist trade.
Yeah.
So I say sometimes when we are about to attack, remember the law of 33. I always tell people that. What we say and what we do, negatively or positively, doesn't only hit the person we think we want to destroy.
Yeah.
But it has the potential of affecting at least 33 other people.
Now let's take this into consideration, Mr. Bola, because there are people out there who are advocating for people to go and get registered so when time comes for election, we can vote this government out because they feel like they haven't handled this situation well. Now, to the people out there who are purposefully spreading propaganda that most likely will damage our tourism sector, remember this. If our tourism sector is damaged, you are coming into or inheriting.
You are hoping to.
Or hoping to inherit.
Come into government.
Something that you would have willfully taken part in damaging. It's like we spoke about before. It's like you are trying to damage the country so you can get into power, to spend time fixing something that you have damaged and then complain that you don't have enough time in office.
Yeah. Well, you want to take control of the vehicle. But how are you doing that? You try to puncture the 4 tires. But when you take control of it, you won't be able to move.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only route you can use?
Mm.
There's a democratic system that exists in this country. People register. They have the freedom and the right to cast a vote for whoever they believe is best to run the country. And the reason why the new National Party government has been re-elected time and time again is because the Grenadian people have confidence. No one is saying that they're perfect. But the Grenadian people have seen time and time again from their performance that they are interested in human development and the survival of the Grenadian people. While you, on the other hand, use every effort and ounce of energy that you can find to make mischief, to destroy, to break down. I have never heard these guys put a post up or come on air on a program and talk about what they're doing to help build a community or a family, or how the organization is helping to promote anything that can create better livelihood for people, that can help improve the lives of people. All they do is break down, mash up, condemn, and say wrong things about people. 90% of the times, the things they say have no truth to it, or very little truth, and they add 90% of falsehood. I am saying coronavirus doesn't discriminate. Coronavirus don't know the difference between who is NNP and who is NDC. Coronavirus doesn't care if you're Catholic, you're Anglican, you're Seventh-day Adventist, or you're Pentecostal. Coronavirus don't care whether the hair on your head is yours that is long and beautiful or is here you buy somewhere else and put. Coronavirus, if it comes to Grenada, will attack the people that are less prepared and most vulnerable.
Yeah.
So it is for all of us to do our best to ensure it doesn't come. It is for all of us to do our best to prepare and to encourage those close to us to do likewise. It is for all of us to bring information that we have that are factual forward so that the authorities can take the necessary measures or put the necessary procedures in place to deal with what they believe has not been dealt with yet. It is all of us' responsibility. If we see gaps in the preparation that the ministry is doing, to call it out and say, hey, while you are doing X, Y, and Z, I believe, or I notice, or I think, or I've heard that this has not been done, which I believe should be done. Yeah. Of course, none of us is a repository of knowledge. And as we continue to say, this is a new virus. It is the first time, and the world is grappling with how best to deal with it. And they have come up with some best practices. Let us look at the best practices. Let us continue to spread those best practices and stop the falsehood.
You know what's funny, Mr. Bola? I was having a conversation with an individual not too long ago. And he was saying to me, girl, let us listen to the program, but I find all your bias. Are you only talking about things the government doing? I say yes, because you guys are already doing such a wonderful job at spreading all the negativity. Somebody needs to talk about the positivity.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And that is the problem that we have. There are so many people out there who are willing and they're happy to spread the negative things. But let something positive happen. They're taking it and they're putting it in their pocket. It's the best kept secret in Grenada. So you have people out there believing that nothing is happening, because the people that you are hoping that would share the positivity because they are so concerned about Grenada, they are the same ones who are keeping it a secret. And it's very sad. It's very difficult to understand. If you think or say that you love Grenada so much, then why are you always giving people the impression that things are so bad in Grenada? That things are awful in Grenada. Grenada ain't have nothing. The hospital don't have no medication, People sleeping, you don't have enough room, people sleeping. It's ridiculous. I have been in the hospital 3 days this week with my father. And I am yet to complain. Because I have not seen what so many people are talking about, and I'm not saying that it is not happening, but what I'm saying is they're not talking about the positive. So all you feel is that there's so much negativity in the healthcare system and nothing is happening, and when it comes to the coronavirus, there are so many things to talk about. Look, the Ministry of Education yesterday sent out a circular to all schools that they must in each school identify a room of isolation for a student in the event that they are sick, and not just with the coronavirus, because we have so many other things to be concerned about other than the coronavirus. There's this really bad flu that's going around that even I myself am recovering from. Don't look surprised. It's gone already.
Close to you.
I would never purposefully make you sick, because I need you. So
let me go get my mask.
But it's difficult for me to understand why they keep poking holes. So the government of Grenada say they have isolation rooms, somebody poking holes. Oh, the isolation room's not secure enough. Government of Grenada is saying that they have quarantine sites, they poking holes. Oh, they lie because they don't want to tell us where the quarantine sites are.
We don't know.
Government of Grenada is allowed a Chinese plane to land so that the Minister of of Health can go and explain the government of Grenada's decision, which is a diplomatic thing to do. Explain our position on not allowing people from, and it wasn't the entire plane that had people from China.
There were only two.
It was a few people, right? Two persons on the plane. They allowed the plane to land to refuel, which by international standards they have to do. But nobody disembarked. Everybody vexed. Oh, why did they allow the plane to land?
But interesting that you raised that, because while we did not allow anyone to disembark from the plane, just allow it to refuel, the plane moved from here to Barbados,
who does not have
any travel ban on Chinese nationals. So too is Dominica, right? So the thing is, we in Grenada are taking even more precautions than some of our neighboring islands. But yet still you do not hear that kind of quarrel and up and down in Dominica or in Barbados, but you're hearing it here, where we are taking even more precautions than those islands. But you know something? There's so much positive things to do, and as you mentioned earlier on, I mean, there are a number of leaflets that I know through the Ministry of Health in collaboration with education and the party and everything.
But not only that, yesterday I was still ill, but I also had to go take care of my father at the hospital. And I made sure that even in doing that, I took a bunch of leaflets, Mr. Bola, and I brought them to the hospital front desk. And I left them there. I dropped some off at the pharmacy. Even days before that, I was walking around the tongue of St. George, handing out flyers to individuals. And these are the things that people need to start doing.
And these flyers are telling people the do's and don'ts.
The do's and don'ts.
Wash your hands, have the better cough and sneeze etiquette, what to stay away from, what to do. I have been doing my own share in my neck of the woods, going around and asking, and thank you to all of the shopkeepers who I went to so far. I still have some. I left a couple in the shop, but I asked permission. I had my tape, I had my scissors, I had my sack. Can would you allow me to stick a few up on the building so as people come and go, they can read? And every single one of them that I went to, thus far, agreed instantly.
Yeah.
And agreed to share some of those leaflets. I went to the school, the Sacred Heart Catholic School in Tivoli, and the principal was glad. I have a daughter that goes to St. Joseph Convent in Grenville, so I gave her a nice little packet. I said, take it to the principal, let her know. The principal sent back to say thank you. I said, but what did she do with it? And she said, Dad, all the classrooms now, they stick them up so children can read.
Yeah.
We're encouraging children now and parents, give your child a bar of soap if you're able, and a little towel so that they can wash their hands often if that is possible.
As you're on that, there is currently, because I went walking around yesterday to find a hand sanitizer, and currently most of the stores seem.
I don't think
and
there's
it's
any
not
other.
just here. There's a shortage all over.
Worldwide.
No, I want to leave because this program, of course, is for education and help as well. And to the person calling, I'm going to answer the phone, but you just hold on for a minute. Let me give this tip quickly. All right? There is a tool that you can use at home to create your own hand sanitizing agent that you can give to your children. So basically, you find any alcohol-based substance. It has to be more than 70%.
Yes,
so
70%.
We know Clarkscourt is over 70%.
Well, I know you advertise for Clarkscourt, but so too is Rivers as well as spirits. Maybe rubbing alcohol not that high, but you can use that as well.
Right, and then you want to use any vitamin E or moisturizing oil, because remember, spirits is also a drying agent.
Yes.
So in order to
alcohol
put it on
in general.
Yeah, you want to put it on your hands. You want to make sure that you put a vitamin E oil, aloe vera, any moisturizing oil in it. All right. You can tea tree oil, all of these things. You can use those. Right. You mix it up in a bottle that sprays. Or for children, you want to use what sprays, because it's not going to be as gel-like as the sanitizer, all right? But you want to put it in a bottle that sprays so that your children has sanitizer that they can use. So even if you're not able to buy because you can't find, and of course we're noticing that the prices have been jacked
which is bad, but I think that is so important, Duncan, that we need to take the caller and we'll get back to
We'll get back to it.
Yes.
Good morning, caller. Sorry for the wait. Oh no, he seems to have let go. I'm sorry, caller, but this was a very important point.
And I think it is
out
about
there.
time. We did promise that we'd open up the lines, and it might be about time now that we do, so people can call. But in terms of ensuring that you sanitize, because general hygiene is so important, not just because of coronavirus, but I think that has opened up our senses more to it. I do not in any way believe that in a general sense Grenada is not a very sanitized country, that the hygiene of our people is so bad. Yes, you can find one or two. There are those who don't care too much about taking a bath regular. As a matter of fact, our friends say some people afraid water so bad they ain't even drinking it. But generally, I think we're good. But we need to improve on whatever we're doing. Yes.
All right, let's take this call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan.
Hi, good
and
morning.
Mr. Bowler.
Good morning, sir.
I'm only disappointed that none of y'all give me a flyer. Only Pastor flyer, all of the
No, we ain't complete
that's
yet.
not fair.
We ain't complete yet, man. You still will get one. And they continue to produce.
Absolutely.
We're just trying to distribute as best as we can.
But that means I have to take plane to get one.
No, we're setting it up for you. We still allow planes to fly to New York, We ain't stopped yet. We considering, We're considering, because all you becoming almost like an epicenter up there now,
Yes. I would just like to ask, just to change the topic for just a brief minute. I know the Ebola thing is important. But what I would like to ask, as it relates to our oil and gas, I think there was a statement, I didn't get any deep details that the quality was of commercial value, but we don't know anything else what's going on. So I'm not sure if the government is prepared to give us to share any more light on that, if they had, because, I haven't seen anything more. Maybe you can do it on another program, because I don't want to disturb this program, because this is an important topic. Mm-hmm. But I would like if we can get some more information on that. I don't think that's too much.
Well, here's what I can tell you. I'm not sure what all the information is about. What I know is when they started doing the testing and they drew a certain quantity of, it was sent to the Blackwater Institute, I think in Texas. That's what I know, where the testing for quality and so would have been done. So maybe the results is out now, but we will endeavor to communicate either directly with the minister for that with responsibility for oil and gas, or there is a team, there is a energy division that would have some information, and maybe sometime in next week, if we can get in contact with them and get agreement from them that one of them can come on or maybe call in for an hour or so and give some further explanation. Because as you're saying, I honestly believe also there are a lot of Grenadians who, we hear a lot of things. They want to know what happened with oil and gas. We hear about it. It was in the manifesto. They talk about it, and we ain't sure. So whenever there is information that can be shared, I do agree that we need to share it. So let's look at that and hopefully see if next week, please God, if we can get some concurrence with somebody who would know more to come on program and share.
Well, I'm glad he brought it up, Mr. Bola, because...
Is he gone now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad he brought it up, because it is actually something that I had in the back of my mind to do an interview on, but because of the current climate,
yes,
everybody's worried about the coronavirus, and I think that information is not going to sink in as much as it needs to. You have to time these things.
Well, definitely, sir. I think corona is what is really most on people's mind now. There are a few mischief makers that from time to time would bring up the issue of oil and gas as though, well, there's some big secret about it or something like that. And I'm saying, if there's any information, let's find out. Let's see who we can get. Maybe one day next week wouldn't be bad, if that is possible.
It's important to note that I listened to a radio program this morning, and I heard an individual complaining about the students. I don't understand why we're still on that topic, but I'm still going to talk about it because it's important, and I feel for the families. I'll be honest. I feel for everybody. I think I feel a little bit too much sometimes, I feel for the families who have their children or whatever it may be in China. I do. It's not a very good situation. It was never from the start. But I will tell you this. Your children are right now in a better situation than you. And I'll explain myself because people like to take what I say and run with it and misinterpret.
Well, of course, not you alone that say that. Mr. Keela beg everybody. And since last year, all in Trinidad, Guyana, all over the Caribbean,
Yeah.
people taking everything and run
run
with
with
it.
it.
So who you going to blame for that now?
I say this because right now, China is in a place where they have begun to manage and
Well, they have been
control.
managing before, so be careful.
control.
They have been managing as best as they
As
can.
best as
they
they
are
can.
now getting control of the management.
Right.
Yes.
And we have seen, even in the numbers, only yesterday, they have recorded 1 death, 30 new infections.
30.
30.
Yeah.
Now, that
it's
is
dropping.
significant because at the onset, even in the beginning of January, when we started realizing that there was a problem, they have been recording thousands of new infections
Per day, yeah.
per day.
Mm-hmm.
They are down to 30. I think today it's risen a bit. It's 150, which is still significantly lower than when it initially started. Now, to take those children out of China, let's just explore the possibility to take them out of China and bring them into a region that is bracing for the onset, is re-exposing them
Yep.
to this difficult situation all over again.
I know. I think it's a lot of emotionalism that is coming out from a lot of people, one. But secondly, it's also trying to blame and make the government look bad. Because that individual who was speaking this morning was talking about how much it costs to take one child and you spend so much money on cell phone and all those things they have been rehashing. Now, the real issue is, and how the government is talking about it's cumbersome and the Minister for Foreign Affairs about all of the protocols you have to go through, which is a fact.
Yeah.
There's just a few countries right now around the world that is allowing direct flights from China. That's the first thing. Now the children are in different provinces and may have to transit between 1 or 2 airports before they get to the airport where they can get a flight that goes out of China into some other country.
Yep.
And then have to do a several transmission. And who knows, if you get from China to one of the countries that still allow direct flights from China, who says that the transition from that country to another one before they get to Grenada would allow them at all? Because as it is in Grenada, we have a ban, except for nationals, as we say. Any person originating from China is banned from coming to Grenada presently.
Yep.
Right? And so too in several countries around the world. On top of that, there was an update only recently, a couple of days ago, from the ambassador in China.
Yes.
Who spoke clearly to, yes, there are issues. The children are housed. They are not quarantined, but they are isolated. They are on lockdown. They are inside. And that all foodstuff and things are delivered to them. She did admit that there are some things, a couple of things, that are difficult to get. And it is difficult for a lot of these students who are accustomed to the freedom and to roam and to do whatever and to be there. And the caller made a point that I am not sure where she's getting that information from, of the children begging and wanting to come home and sent out this, and the children had this petition, of course, which we know for a fact did not originate from these students because they have said so themselves. They have refused to sign it themselves, and they are not asking. They would like to if they can, but also the school work, because while the universities and schools are on lockdown in most of the cities, they are getting online work to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on, we must know the facts before we continue just running our mouths and saying all of those things. So I think we do have a caller now again.
Yeah, let's take this caller. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before I set the things I want to say, let me take you back on this when it comes to taxis, and it's a matter of security and people's health. Taxi drivers do not put people in the taxis suspected of having the virus. Do we understand that part?
Go ahead, we're listening you.
Because when assuming that they do have the virus, you put them in the cab, take them to the hospital, Do you go back on the rank and pick up more customers? What do you do?
No, we hear that what you're saying, but there was never a case where anyone
what I'm saying,
approached the drivers.
Stop and listen. I'm not saying there was a case, yes? But assuming that that was the situation, is that what you expect a taxi driver to put
No, we're not saying that at all. Just like you, we're not saying that, but we did not have that situation. All we were saying is that whoever put the post up was saying things that were not true, were not factual. That's what we were saying. And it's damaging.
And I respect that part.
Good.
Because for one, I do realize there are a lot of videos going around social network which are stitched together and presented as a complete story. I understand that part.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, okay.
Some weeks ago, I called this station, your program, to explain the virus can hide itself, and you hung up on me.
Well, I am not sure about that. I can't remember.
Now you remember that very clearly because it was you, Mr. Bola.
I'm sorry, caller. Are you calling to make a point? Because we have a lot of people who are trying to contribute.
No, you see, the point I'm trying to make to you is this. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're there and we're listening to you. So go ahead.
Right. The point I'm trying to make, you may say about people, but I called to give you information which I knew was fact.
So go ahead and give it.
So can you give the information?
Yeah. I gave you the facts 2 weeks ago. You locked down the facts. Yeah. Which was
what is the facts? Yes.
The virus. Yeah. Someone could have the virus without knowing it, showing no symptoms. Because you didn't know it, you dismissed it. So, can you understand why people on social network are so misleading and lack understanding?
All right.
So we understand that some people can have it and the level of symptoms can be lower than others. And we said that this morning. That is a fact.
Said it, I told you that weeks ago and you dismissed it because you didn't know.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the problem with many Grenadians. If they don't know something and someone else tells them, they dismiss it. So how do you proceed with education?
No, you don't dismiss it. You sometimes just take time to verify it, because remember you didn't know before.
What I verified it.
No, we have to take time to verify it.
I listen to the scientists.
I
look at many programs. I look at what's going on in Australia, Canada, America. I'm up to date. I knew the information. I passed on to you, and it was dismissed.
No, sir.
All right, caller. We understand what you're saying. We thank you for the information.
So what I'm saying to you is this: do not file people on social media. They may ask questions out of sync, but it's for people that know different to go on and combat it. Because I have been combating all the propaganda on social network, but at the same time, I know where I stand in the corona.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution, caller.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay. Now, I understand what the caller is trying to say, but first of all, we don't cut people off on the program. And if I cut you off, you will know, because I will tell you. But secondly, we didn't dismiss that. This is something that we have been saying from the get-go. This is not a secret. It is not information. And I think that's what people are misunderstanding. We are not selecting what to tell you. We are telling you the facts as it is. If you choose to believe them, that is up to you. If you choose to agree and disagree with us, that is also your choice. But we can only share with you the facts. That is all that we are here to do. Share with you the facts in whatever form they may come. But it's very important for us to understand what we share on social media, and that's what we've been telling people, cannot be taken back once it's out there. You have a responsibility to your followers to ensure that the information that you always put out there is factual. Because if I share a lie today and 40 people hear it, it means that that's 40 people exposed to a lie.
Who may expose it
to
the
someone else.
Well. Yes, so it's a multiplying effect.
So you are helping to spread. And that's why I always say to people, before you would jump up and share something that somebody else would have shared with you, verify. sometimes we take a lot of hearsay and we run with it. You know? Well, she say that is what happened. What makes she qualified to say what she is saying? You understand? So we have to be careful. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Duncan.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Hi, hi, hi. How are you?
How are everything? I'm okay. For
Good.
Duncan.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Duncan, I want to say concerned with this government. This is a government that care and love people. Because in making preparedness for the event of a coronavirus is here learning grader, this government already deposited $2 million in helping to make preparation for to prepare for the coronavirus. I want to say to the people, if you don't care about something, you will never spend money on it. But when you care and you love people, you spend money to prevent things from happening. Because you see, many people spend the time to lambase and criticize. But if even their own family, they won't give some proper guidelines, instruction to the children and to the neighbors of what to do to prevent them from the virus taking them. You see, they spend major of the time doing things that is no benefit to the country and no benefit to their own family.
Yeah.
And I say, if you love people, you always give people the right information and information to save them from catching any sickness. But because they don't love and they don't have a care for one another, they even love themselves. They even love the children that they say they love. Because once you love them, you go do things and let them do the correct information, what they need to do. I was listening to the program with Babylon where the Prime Minister was saying the greatest thing is when people misleading people, people false information. This is the greatest thing because bringing fear and torment in people's life. And I think if you love people as leaders, you support, aspire people and to build people up and for people to go forward. Give them true information that that could benefit them and bring benefit to the country. Not to mislead them and to let them go down into a rabbit hole. Sometimes, Mr. Bola, you all have a wonderful day.
You take care, enjoy your good weekend too, and thanks for your contribution. And
thanks, Mr. Bola.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, even the Prime Minister in we have another call?
No, go ahead.
In St. Lucia, Alan, who was here incidentally, and you know, yesterday we would have had to, as a country, mourn and bury a son of the soil, very illustrious career in tourism, and someone who was a philanthropist in every sense of the word. So may his soul rest in peace, that of Sir Royston, and we hope that his family will cope with his loss, as Grenada will have to do. The Prime Minister of St. Lucia went on air and condemned the whole issue of falsifying information and fake news and so, and said that the government of St. Lucia is going to prosecute to the fullest extent those found trying to spread false news about the coronavirus. And so
We need to do that here too.
I don't know if we need to do that. I think we need to encourage our people to do better. I don't know that we have to really prosecute to the full extent of the law. But if you have people who are continuously misleading the public, then you may have to take some form of, because there are laws in place, and we did speak to that some time ago. So we're saying that it's not only in Grenada, but we're encouraging our people here in Grenada. We want to be different. We want to be trendsetters. We want to be leaders in doing the correct things. Yes, and it sometimes takes time for us to understand how to change from what we know into something better. But we do want to encourage all our people who listen to us to spread what is truthful and factual.
Yeah, I want to share some, because I know we spend a lot of time talking about being mindful and being responsible and sharing information and so on. And we are going to continue talking about it, and people are going to get tired of hearing it. But as it continues to happen, we have to talk about it. You know, it's our responsibility. But also, I want to quickly read to you here the steps or the guidelines that are handed down from the Ministry of Education to the different schools. And it says that students and staff members who exhibit flu-like symptoms should not be accepted to school. Also, parents, if your child is sick, your child needs rest. Your child does not need to go to school and play with their friends and spread whatever flu-like virus it is that they have. You know, because we are talking about the coronavirus, but it is not the only thing that we have in the atmosphere circulating. We have a flu that is also circulating that is just as bad. You know, people don't like to hear us say that because they feel like we're making excuses. But it is not excuses, it is fact. You know, so if your child is sick, your child needs rest. Just like if you're sick, you can't go to work because you feel tired, you feel drained, you feel sick. The child may not all the time say that, but they will feel the same way. They need rest. So please, do the right thing.
Rest and care.
And
not just
care,
rest,
of course. And keep them at home.
Specialized care.
Principals should designate a room for temporary isolation if necessary. All right? And this is to facilitate if students are at the school, begin showing flu-like symptoms, they should be sent to that isolation room. And of course, the principal must then ensure immediate notification of the parent to have him or her return home or to seek medical advice. All right? Of course, staff members who manifest flu-like symptoms should vacate the premises immediately and seek medical attention. Now, people are wondering, well, why is so much advice being given? Why not more action? And I'll tell you this. As the World Health Organization, the head of the World Health Organization has said, every country must tailor their procedure to suit their outbreak. Now, we as a small nation may be able or may be in a better position to manage the virus if it ever steps on our shores.
Important that you say to manage it, but that management comes with responsibility from each and every one of us. Because in managing it, while the government and the ministry may do all and follow all the necessary protocols and procedures, if any one of us should come down, God lot, and I hope not, with the virus, and we do not follow through, as they have asked us, to call the hotline, to stay isolated, not get into public, to practice proper sneezing and coughing etiquette and so. If we don't follow those things, we will be the ones that are spreading it, because when the virus started, and I guess pretty unknown to the first person who contracted it, it came from them to other people because they did not know how to control. And the world at that time, even when they found out that it was a new virus and what, still did not know how it was spreading, and so they couldn't. But now, as you said earlier on, look at the numbers, how the amount of infections per day is reducing dramatically. And that point was made also by the Director General of the WHO, because China is now getting control of it because they understand it much better.
Yes.
Not fully, but much better.
You know, I had a conversation yesterday. I know I say that a lot because I have a lot of conversations. It's the only way that I'm going to know how people think. It's the only way I'm going to know how to... And it's you that teach me that, Mr. Bolas, so don't look at me that way. I had a conversation the other day with a young lady, and I was explaining to her that we have to look at this thing logically. Now, you're looking at a city in China that has millions of people moving about the streets daily. The population is very dense in that place. Now, you're also looking at, I may be in China, I contract the virus. Now, there is no radar or anything that says that this person has a new virus. Now, this person may think, okay, well, it's a fever, it's probably the flu. They are moving around the same general population as everyone else. Now, by the time China even realized that this was some new virus, this thing would have spread to so many people. How do you track something like that? Now, the rest of the world has a better opportunity to track and contain the virus. Because now they know that, okay, this is a list of 97 countries. If you have a travel history of XYZ, We need to look at the people who are directly surrounding you, because one of the things that has also been noted is that the infections are not vast and wide. You find infections more in people with close contact, family members, staff members, a person that would have transported them from here to there. It is more people who have come in close contact with the infected person, right? So they now know whom I should look for, whom I should contact. Has this person presented with any symptoms of, who should I isolate? So we now have a better understanding of how to deal with this issue, because China would have been studying, managing, and now they are getting a handle on how to deal with it. Now, if everybody follows the protocols as they should, then we're not saying that the virus is not going to reach our shores, because there was also a study that said, from one of the scientists, that says any country that believes that the virus is not going to come to their shores is very sadly mistaken. We must prepare ourselves. We must hope, of course, that it does not, but we must prepare ourselves, And I'm seeing a comment here that says, not because you're a smaller island, you don't take sudden action. As a matter of fact, the smaller islands, the smaller the island, the faster it would spread out of control. You have to get a hold of the virus on hand. Don't think because the country is smaller. But I say contrary, because as a smaller nation, if we practice all we're supposed to practice, we have a better chance of managing this virus. And that is a fact. Because if you look at places like America, look at places like Iran, look at places as Japan and South Korea, these are all places with mass populations, people moving about in large groups, in large areas.
All the time.
All of the time. So you expect that this would happen. In a smaller islands where we are managing our borders, where we are controlling our borders, where we are controlling our people, where we are informing our people. If everybody does their part, we will have a better handle on this thing. For us to sit down and say that the government must put measures in place to keep the virus out, we are already thinking along the wrong lines. What government must do is put measures in place to manage the eventuality of this virus, which is what they are currently doing. We can't say block all 97 countries because we have that travel ban in place, but Barbados doesn't. Somebody traveling from Barbados can very well come to Grenada with the virus. So we just don't know. We must all come together and take the appropriate measures. That is the only way to handle this thing. And I'm looking at people who are sitting, or who were, because you're not hearing them now, who were sitting in places like Canada and sitting in places like New York and talking about Grenada, Grenada, Grenada. Where are you now? Now that you are sitting in an environment where they don't even know who may be infected by this virus. What are you now telling us?
Well, it's sad for them, and you have to still hope and pray that it doesn't spread too wide and create mass destruction in New York and those places. But it only goes to show that when they said when your neighbor's house is on fire, that's what our foreparents used to say. Mm-hmm. Please start wetting yours because you just don't know. So I think that's what we are in the process of doing here in Grenada. We are putting water on our houses. We are wetting. We are preparing. We are looking at the examples. We are looking at the circumstances. We are looking at the doings in the countries that are presently infected, and we're hoping to put the necessary things in place. And so people, let's start listening and looking. The leaflets are out there telling you the things you should do. Wash your hands regularly, use your soap and water. They're telling you about eating your colored food, about boosting your immune system, reduction in alcohol intake, and all of the many things we say on a daily basis. Read them, share them, understand them, talk to your neighbors, because You see, it's not good enough for you and your household to practice all that needs to be practiced. And just your neighbor next door is not practicing, because if your neighbor eventually contract the virus, most likely you will too, because the children interact with each other. You speak to your neighbor, you all shake hands and say hello on a morning. So what you know that is correct to do, you should encourage your neighbors and your friends and your colleagues at work, and talk to your children at home so they can encourage their friends at school, on the playground, wherever they go. Let's spread the positive message. Let's prepare, because that should be our watchword at this time. Preparation, preparation, preparation. We don't have it. We wish we never will. But as one scientist say, it will only be wishful thinking to believe that it will not come your way. We have managed a lot of other outbreaks before. SARS and chikungunya and Asian influenza and all of them, and Ebolas, whatever it was. We had the protocol in place. We have dealt with whatever came. We were happy for those that didn't reach us. And we're praying and hoping that this one doesn't reach our shoes as well. But we cannot just sit by and throw our hands in the air and say, God will leave it up to you. We have to do our part as a people. We have to prepare. The Ministry of Health will do what it has to do. Our doctors, our hospital staff, our frontline workers, the corona people, the team, the committee. There is a gentleman, doctor. There is Dr. Martin, who is in charge of. They have just reactivated the. I think it's what it's called, the sanitation committee or something.
Sanitation committee, yeah.
Right, who Dr. Martin is in charge of. And then we now have Dr. Mitchell, who is the coordinator, the person who sits on top and tries to coordinate everything else. I mean, they can do, and they are doing, and they will continue to do. But we also as a people, and that's what I want to emphasize and re-emphasize, we must also take up our responsibilities. We have a duty to do for ourselves. We have a duty and a responsibility to prepare for ourselves and our family. We have a responsibility to share credible, truthful, factual information with friends, neighbors, relatives, those we are in contact with on the various platforms. Let us do that, because if we do not participate, if we do not play our part, then what happens? They said a chain is as strong as its weakest link. So if there's 100 links in the chain and 98 prepare and 2 did not, we are still all exposed. Because when those 2 weak links break, the chain breaks. Right? So Grenadians, please listen. You don't have to become an NNP supporter or sympathizer. You don't have to wear a green T-shirt. You don't have to like Roland Bola or Michelle and Duncan. You don't have to like the Honorable Dr. Kit Mitchell or Honorable Steele, as a matter of fact, the Minister of Health. You don't have to like any one of us. You must like yourself enough, love your family genuinely enough, and want your country to remain safe enough to follow the protocols and do what is necessary of you. And let's share that kind of spirit.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, when an election is called and we decide who we want to vote for, who we'd like to see be in leadership of our country, we go and we perform our constitutional rights. But now it is our constitutional duty to ensure that we safeguard ourselves, our family, and our country at large. I want to thank you today for listening to us. We hope that whatever we would have said would make some kind of sense to you. Whatever direction you was heading down, that you would stop and think for a moment, and let's practice what we need to, and let's protect ourselves and our beautiful country. Do enjoy the rest of today, and of course, a wonderful weekend. And let me tell you, one of the things that is happening this weekend, especially for our people in the northern side of the island, you know, even the eastern coast going up, the St. Patrick's East constituency, they're having a Moonlight All Fours plus karaoke at the Bathway Beach this Saturday night, the day after today, tomorrow night, 7th March 2020, and they start from the afternoon, 2 p.m. until whenever, they can say. And you know, hear what? They have free food for you who come and play all fools and sing for karaoke. Bathway Beach, nice place, romantic place. Full moon is on the 9th, 2 days after. So imagine what it would be like under the white sun in Bathway. You're singing karaoke, somebody boys playing all fools, free food, but you had to buy your drink. They say they have a solid bar. They ain't giving you drink for free. So please go join them. Join the folks from St. Patrick's East constituency tomorrow night at Bathway, where they'll be playing all fours. They'll have karaoke. They have a lot of free food to give. It's like they're making Saraka on the bay. But they say work with a little money because you have to pay if you want to drink.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Guys, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Of course, we remind you, do the responsible thing, get the information, share the facts. Let's all work together to get a handle on this thing in whatever you say and whatever you do. Be safe, guys. Be secure. We always want to be talking with you and never about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
CBI committee welcomes IMF commendations on the program's impact on participating countries. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Thursday, March 5th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. The CEO of Grenada's Citizenship by Investment Committee, Mr. Percival Clouden, welcomes recent commendations by the International Monetary Fund on the impact of the regional CBI programs to the socio-economic structure of participating countries. The IMF, in a recent article, recognized the program as a significant contributor of revenue and reducing national debt. The article states, and I quote, "The liquidity injection to Caribbean economies creates significant societal and sovereign value. It helps to diversify the economies of those regions. It creates sustainable employment and eases the fiscal and monetary challenges that are faced by sovereign governments," unquote. Clouden says the spotlight the IMF has placed and continues to place on Grenada's program can rule out negative perceptions that there is no due diligence and transparency.
It will have a positive impact. More importantly, to the more industrial nations like the UK and the US. They look at our programs with a jaundiced eye, although they are doing the same thing. Because we are small island nations, they think that we engage in negative things like encouraging tax evasion and money laundering and things, and that is furthest from the truth. So much so that if one of our applicants do not disclose his source of funds, we send it back for clarification.
The Grenada Citizenship by Investment Program contributes approximately $90 million annually to the country's gross domestic product. It creates avenues for employment and improvement in infrastructure. This year, with 71 applications already processed from January to March, the annual contribution is expected to exceed the previous amounts.
This year, it will exceed 90 million. If things are going as we anticipate, I see more like 110 million coming from CBI. CBI's contribution to the central government. As of this date, we have about 71 applications.
The outlook for 2020 is positive. Clouden projects an increase in applications from 375 to 950.
We have 2 new projects coming online. The range project in Lasajes and the national project in Livera St. Patrick's. Those are significant projects, and it's going to change the economic culture of the North, because people are going to be put to work. They're going to account for the Lasajes project, going to hire about 300 persons, local persons, and that's in the construction phase. And then in the operations phase, another 250 permanent employment. Likewise, the Livera project in St. Patrick's, that's going to account for about 400 permanent employees and about 700 construction workers.
An emotional send-off for Sir Royston O. Hopkins KCMG, as hundreds turned out to pay their last respects to a man who made a significant contribution to the hotel industry in Grenada and beyond. Sir Royston, who described himself as one driven by excellence and prided himself in associating with those who were brighter than him, died late last month, weeks after a medical procedure. The service at the packed Trade Center, which included musical tributes, was attended by the Governor-General, Her Excellency Dame Cecile Lagrenade, Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell and Cabinet colleagues, St. Lucian Prime Minister Alan Chasney, and other regional colleagues. The homily was delivered by Pastor Stanford Simon, who called on all to live and lead a life of example, as Sir Royston did.
We sometimes think, and somehow we think that we want to roll with God, but yet still we want to just sneak in the church and sneak back out. I mean, if you're coming and roll with me, I'm sure you want to sneak in and leave me fast. But if you're rolling with Mr. Royston and Mr. Butch and in a private jet, I'm sure you don't want to leave. I mean, in fact, he may have to tell you it's time to leave. The reality of it is, when you begin to roll with someone of class, you begin to become class yourself. If you do not understand class, you learn class by liming with class. You understand class by rolling with class.
Sir Royston has been widely recognized and has received many local, regional, and international accolades for his contribution to tourism. Less than 1 year ago, he was presented with an Outstanding Achievement Award at the inaugural Ministers' Tourism Awards. Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell remembered his dear friend as one committed to the development of others.
When I was widely criticized over any policy or perceived personal issues, on those occasions he did not call as a businessman but as a friend. He always reminded me that he was there for me. He also cared deeply about this country. And he worked tirelessly every day in service for this beautiful land. It was his duty and a passion.
Sir Royston's childhood friend, Barbadian tourism veteran Peter Odell, delivered the eulogy and shared fond memories of his friend.
He was a passionate man, and his life reflected this. He loved his toys, cars, watches, and pens, from Mont Blanc to Cartier. He collected them with boyish zeal. His collection includes over 24 luxury automobiles, with two notable favorites being his Bentley Bentayga and his Maserati Jeep. He enjoyed travel and reveled in many experiences, from the gondolas of Venice, camel riding in Africa, and driving his Bentley Honor through the British countryside and across Europe. I am sure that I speak for everyone when I say what a privilege and honor it has been to know this charismatic, handsome, and generous human being. May God grant him eternal peace.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Grenada's #1 track and field event is back. The Inter-Secondary School Championships is back at the Carriacou James Athletic Stadium. You must be there. Experience the intense rivalry between athletes of our secondary schools on the track and in the field. Blame yourself if you missed the first ever Republic Bank sponsored Intercall 2020. Blame yourself if you miss a day of exciting action on the track. Be there every day, day 1, 2, and 3. The 53rd Intercall Championships takes place on March 31st, April 1st, and 2nd, starting at 9 a.m. each day. Come, let's celebrate the inaugural Republic Bank Intercall. Come out families, come out past students, come out school-based supporters for the return of competition on the track and in the field, because Intercall is back.
Welcome back. Germany's new ambassador to Grenada, Her Excellency Ute Koenig, said she is pleased with the bilateral relationship between Germany and Grenada. On Thursday, March 5th, she presented her credentials to the Governor-General of Grenada, Her Excellency Dame Cécile Lagrenade. Since 1974, Grenada has benefited from diplomatic relations with Germany. Her Excellency Koenig said she will seek to strengthen the bilateral efforts between the two countries.
I hope that we will cooperate closely in the future. My minister has created an alliance for multilateralism, because we always think that the problems of this world are too great for a country to face them alone. And in this, our German cooperation is not just done through bilateral mechanisms, but many German cooperation projects are also done through CARICOM, because regional cooperation is also an issue for this region. I learned in my brief stay in the Caribbean that all these islands share a lot of common history, of common bonds, that you have many links, family, friends, business connections, which make this region unique in its access to risks of the world. I am happy to contribute in the coming years to strengthen the relations between Grenada and Germany. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Governor-General Her Excellency Dame Cécile Lagrenade says Grenada is still reaping the benefits of diplomatic relations with Germany.
Our region is being severely affected by the devastating effects of climate change. Through the German Ministry of the Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, assistance has been provided under the International Climate Change Agreement to the Grenada Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and the Environment to support projects aimed at alleviating the effects of climate change. Grenada has also benefited from the GIZ with assistance in export development, local manufacturing companies were afforded the opportunity to participate in study tours, regional seminars, and trade fairs with the assistance of the GIZ. Your Excellency, your country's continued generous contribution to the European Development Fund, through which Grenada receives developmental aid, has also assisted our country tremendously. We truly appreciate this assistance that has been given over the years.
Finally, in the news, the Ministry of Agriculture encouraged increased production with the hosting of a root crop training at the Marabou Agricultural Station for farmers and field officers. We get more in this Karima Lewis report.
Increase in production and minimizing importation. That was the reason behind a root crop training held at the Marabou Agricultural Station on Wednesday. Close to 100 farmers and agriculture field officers convened at the site with the objective of leaving with information on new planting methods, as the training provided participants with the recommended cultural practices for root crops grown in Grenada. Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Yolande Bean Horsford, implored on the participants to never be afraid of training.
Training is so important. Sometimes we feel that we know everything. As farmers, we've been farming for all these years. And we have all the techniques in the world. We stick things in the ground, and we do our thing and things grow. But these days, we have new techniques. We have smart climate practices that we can use, and you get things double than when you used to plant before with your old techniques. So this morning, this is so very important for you.
Grenada, for a number of years, has been importing root crops. Chief Extension Officer Randolph Shears says importation should be minimized after this training.
You know, it's very embarrassing for us, you know, as our cultural nation, to be importing, you know, stuff from neighboring islands. In St. Vincent, it's well known that we import, not year-round, but from time to time, root crops from St. Vincent. And these root crops, we can grow them here. As the minister said, we have the right soil, we have the farmers, we have the technique, we have the ideal weather conditions, we have excellent varieties, and we can produce these root crops right here in Grenada.
The one-day session, which was held in collaboration with the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, took on a group-oriented approach as participants were placed in 4 groups: yams, cassava and sweet potatoes, tanya, edos and dasheen, and ginger and turmeric. Participants spent 44 minutes at each of the stations and were fully exposed to all categories of the training, which was facilitated by agronomists and extension officers within the ministry. 3 participants, Tevin Alexander, Craig Hazard, and Brian Hazard, are grateful for the methods they were exposed to.
I learned new techniques on how to grow some of the crops that I grow. Yeah, so like yam and ginger and cassava. Some of the techniques I learned, I mean, it's not like I used to use that. I used to use different techniques before, but now that I know new techniques how to get bigger yields, yeah, I would definitely put that into work.
As a farmer, we tend to stick to the traditional method of doing stuff. So I feel that this training today, it will give us some highlights how to do things in a more technical manner, a more modern manner. And the technical knowledge you have gathered here today can help us to increase our yield, to get better yields, nicer production.
The training will benefit me in many ways. I learn new techniques, you know, modern techniques, a lot of things I didn't know, especially with the potato and the yam cuttings. I learn the new technique, and I think it will help me do my farming better and more effectively.
Shears says the ministry is tasked with ensuring that the practices learnt are in fact implemented by the farmers.
The farmers and officers on the ministry will be here to be part of this training. And the role of the officers after today's training is to be out in the field encouraging the farmers to adopt these practices so that the production can be improved and the productivity can also be improved as it relates to root crop production.
For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Karima Lewis.
Thank you, Karima. That story just ended the national report for today, Thursday, March 5th. Let's recap the top story. CBI committee welcomes IMF commendations on the program's impact on participating countries. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for listening. Until next time.